Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the Cypher System rules by Monty Cook Games. This actual play is performed by adults and contains adult themes. We're happy to have you with us on this journey of cosmic wonder. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., which may bear resemblance to entities living from the vast reaches of unknown space, are strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your game master. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I am your game master this evening, Michael Diamond. My pronouns are he, him, and we are back with another episode of our Children of the Periphery into the Unknown. Before we get started, we'd like to thank you, the listener, and especially you, the Patreon supporter. So you help us do all sorts of wonderful things, like put on live events and make cool swag and give to charities and all sorts of stuff. So you are doing your part. And even if you don't give the show a single dollar, the one thing you can do to help out would be to share the show with somebody who might enjoy it. And so we would encourage you to do that. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitch over at twitch.tv/theoldwayswitch, where we are going to be doing more things, more fun things for you to look at, see faces, make us do silly things with all of the points that you earn in the channel and whatnot. And we will hope to see you there. And so now I'm going to turn to our players and have them introduce their characters, and we'll get off to a relay station. To my right.
This is Morgan, and I play Captain Amara Kasra. Our pronouns are she, her, and Captain Amara is a brash explorer who learns quickly. And yeah, we're going to go explore some crap.
You're going to be learning quickly. To Captain Amara's right.
Hi, my name is Mare, and I play Cordelia Oren. Both of our pronouns are she, her, and Cordelia is a beneficent warrior who wears power armor. And she's ready to rock. Just the sound of all sorts of things clicking and clacking and gearing up on the power suit to get ready to go and explore.
Into the unknown. I love it. And last but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm John. I'll be playing Fida. We both use he, him pronouns. And Fida is a mechanical explorer who talks to machines. Fida's definitely not having, some kind of existential anxiety about what we're going to do today. Definitely not.
Not in the slightest, I'm sure. Okay, with that out of the way, we're going to raise the curtain, as it were, on the colony ship, where out the main view screen, we've gotten a little closer to the relay station, but we also know that we'll be using the Periphery itself, the actual, we'll just say inter-system ship, the Periphery, to head out over there, because we didn't want to bring the big old colony ship too close to the planet because we wanted to make sure it was worth the trip. So with the characters strapped into their various chairs, they blasted off from the colony ship and have made their way towards this relay station. So just visually, to give the players and the audience at home some assistance, this relay station sort of looks like, it looks like a rectangle with a bunch of antenna coming out of it. So imagine, if you would, a rectangular shape, sort of thick, though. So in three-dimensional space, it sort of looks like a book that floats in space. So it's wide, long, and then probably has several decks that make up its interior. On top of the station itself and on the bottom, there are various antenna. And as was mentioned last session with some of the scan rolls that were made, there are various what look like weapons that are attached to this relay station, some of which have been destroyed or burned out or sit in various angles, none of which seem to be active. Fida did manage to find an airlock that he believes the ship could attach to with an umbilical and then gain access to the relay station to explore it further. So, how would the group like to proceed? We will say that the Periphery that you're captaining, Captain Kasra, is, we'll say, about 2 kilometers right now from the main relay station. So you're close enough to pick it up on visual sensors and look at it through the various screens that are here. There's also a active holographic image that Rakam has placed sort of in the center of the bridge. So everybody who's in the various chairs could look towards the center of the bridge and see the shape as he's pulling in that data. For the purposes of this expedition, Tamarisk has retired to their quarters, and they are dealing with, sounds like a terrible headache.
All right, with Tamarisk out of commission for this away mission, we need to come up with a plan to survey the station efficiently while staying safe. Should probably grab some weapons, although Cordelia probably already have some weapons on you, built into your armor. I love it, and we'll steal it at some point.
Pardon?
Not just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Fida, your job is to check out the computers, the electrical. Cordelia and I can search for life and other supplies on the station.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. Do you want us to suit up before we go out? Or, unknown environment, all that stuff?
I think we should definitely suit up. Even if we were to do a scan and the environment was safe for us to breathe, it could be a trap. Yeah,
and there could be a reason nobody has come up here or stuck around or anything. By the looks of things, look at it. It's been shot up. Nobody seems to have fixed it. Unless it happened recently, and there's no ships around, so... And he just kind of makes a shrugging gesture.
Well, sometimes people judge a little quickly, and so yes, we want to be aware of all the weapon fire that exists, marks that exist on the station. But they could have just pointed those nice people that stopped by to another planet.
Entirely possible, yeah. They could have had the wrong house.
There are a lot of possibilities. I think that if this has enough weaponry on the outside, there are also likely security measures that are taking place on the inside as well. It could be as simple as with the colony vessel, we step within, it detects our life forms, it turns on things, scrubbers, anything along those lines. It could be as simple as that. Or it could be turrets that then are facing directly at us. Anything could happen. So we need to be prepared for all of those. I am happy to take the lead as far as entering in and clearing the area, so long as, I don't know. You see that she looks between Fida and the captain and goes, I am allowed, right, in the instance of anything starts firing at me, even if it may have a thought or a feeling, if it's a turret, to protect us, correct? There's been a little bit of debate about that.
Yeah, if you don't fire first, I will.
Okay, sounds great. All of a sudden, Cordelia has a little bit more of a respect for Captain Kazra and is like, all right, cool. Moves that little measurement up a couple notches at that point. All right, well, I will take the lead. Are there any, I guess if there's no way to tell what sort of connections might be needed to read any of their technology?
I'm going to bring a variety of tools. It'll be, look, if there's any chance of a convergence of connections, that'll be very convenient, but also he's thinking about how like a connection between two computers works. And he's like, I think it's going to be unlikely that it'll be one-to-one, but we'll figure something out. The basic principle they operate on would be the same, I think. Oh, unless they figured out weird quantum technology, in which case it'd be completely different. But that's neither here nor there.
Right. I feel pretty safe that if we start feeling that it is emanating radiation or anything, we can just turn back and regroup from there. I feel like there's a number of questions. We're in a different part of the universe entirely. Is oxygen?
Where lightning can be sentient, yeah.
Lightning can be sentient. Do they breathe oxygen? There are a number of different questions that we can have here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just being prepared. that's just my goal. I want to be a little bit cautious on this. And you see that she's kind of, there's the sound of her checking the various connections that are on her suit, like where different things are, different weapons that are attached, the latching sound of her rifle going onto her back. Just double checking the whirring of the suit itself powering up, gassing itself up for pressure, there's a whole lot of just in case that she is preparing for with her suit.
Yeah, you go through the regular, just making sure that all of the servos and are tested, everything looks good. And you realize that maybe this is something you do, maybe it's something you did before you went into cryo and you just don't remember it, but you get a lot of memory echo back from doing this. You can see yourself in different stages of having worn and earned the power armor to do this. At once it became a breakdown of a checklist that you had in your head of things you had to do before you go. And it became like a rote, memorized piece of your life. And then it becomes like therapeutic in a way. Like you check all these things to make sure that you are okay and that you are ready. And then maybe borders on, not the greatest of mental thought trains, which is I do this and then I go back to square one and I do it all over again. And then I do it all over again. And you see yourself hyper focusing on it. And it's at that point you realize you're sitting in a chair and you've gone through these processes 5 different times. And everybody on the bridge likely has noticed you go through every single one of them. And then the ship's there at the relay station.
Yeah, before we dock, I'm going to go grab a weapon from probably our weapons closet. We probably don't have a big weapons hold on the ship.
Locker would be a generous term, Cap.
It's so cute.
It's a weapons side table, if we're honest.
And grab an energy weapon, sidearm. Nothing too huge enough that I can still, not like a rifle.
Yeah, I remember you having
And a Vulcan pistol.
Yeah, so you have a ballistic pistol. That's what you'll have.
Okay.
So,
Fida is bringing a plasma cutter and basically utility tools, a Geiger counter, his spacesuit that fits still, just med kit, all the usual. We're going to a dangerous place.
Yeah. Okay. Rakam announces over the overhead while you're all getting ready that he has a good seal on the umbilical. The way this station's airlocks seem to work, it is something he will likely have to keep a close eye on because it's, of course, not exact for where we're from. So he'll keep you posted when you get to the door. Try not to jostle it too much because if there's too much movement on the umbilical, we could lose containment and then you all might be floating around in space for a little bit.
All right. Everybody have their suit on?
Good to go.
And I think Cordelia is just going to be very surprised because, as Fida said, our suits are kind of skin tight with hard body part, hard chest plates and helmets and arm guards, instead of the big actual current day EVA suits she had us wear back on the other Periphery when we were doing that generator repair.
Right.
You can see she's looking at it a little suspiciously, kind of like a mom in wintertime who's like, hey, is that going to be enough for you? Is that going to be enough? Do you think you need anything else you need to put on that? Okay. That's a little snug looking there.
Pretty soon she's going to be patting people on the butt. Go ahead, champ. Go get them. Beneficent.
I will say that the shape on it looks, really, it's very flattering. It's a very flattering suit on you there, Fida. And then you as well, Captain. But yeah.
Thank you, Colonel.
You step out through the airlock into the umbilical, and it doesn't really matter how many times you've done it. There's always a little trepidation when it comes to stepping out into open space. There's a very thin membrane sort of material that sits between you and an utter lack of oxygen. You are all helmeted and, suit fitted, so that would help if there were any complications. But you really want to get on solid ground after you step on this. There's a very thin and firm rail that exists down the center of this as it's extended out. And you can see where there's a ring of activated magnets on the end, which has adhered itself to the relay station's hull. And the tube has been filled with what you think is a varying amount of pressure in hopes that you won't, have a pressure problem between the two locations. So I'd love to hear how our crew is going to take on the challenge of this door.
All right, Mike. The first thing I do is check if there's any buttons or like a lever.
On the outside, there are, in fact, several buttons. They do not appear to be powered up.
Oh, the radio. I relay this to the team, and I'm just like, well, I mean, looks like the door's not powered on, so, or at least the external controls aren't. So,
Do we have some sort of energy source? I mean, I could use part of my suit if needed.
You get into your toolkit and you begin searching through some things, right? So there are buttons here. Yes, they're not technically shaped as you would see them. There's some sort of pictogram that's on the outside of the store.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first you're encountering this pictogram. It's a series of chevrons, and the lights are beneath it. It doesn't look like the chevrons move, but maybe that's because they don't have power.
It doesn't look like the portal builder stuff I've interacted with before, where I put my hands in the various sockets and just twirled and...
It doesn't. It doesn't look like portal builder technology, which is both exciting and terrifying.
Yep. A little scary, to be honest. Gonna relay that to the team as well. Just kind of... So I could spend ages... But we'd have to go back and recharge our air supply by the time I figure out what these buttons do. Or I can use the cutter and try and brute force this.
I could see if it could be forced open as well and do the cutter as a last resort, because we would want to be able to close this door again, ideally, right?
Ideally, but I mean, if it's an airlock, it will probably have another door on the internal.
I can give that a go.
Yeah.
Are there any visual seals for this?
You're at this door. Now, to answer a couple other questions about the airlock, I will say that the airlock is square in nature. That's the door seems to be square. It is not split down the middle to open sort of like perhaps a pair of curtains or shutters. It is seemingly either goes from, the bottom to the top when it opens, or perhaps another way.
We think it goes from one edge to another.
Yes. And you are in a sealed environment, and Cordelia's suit would tell her that the pressure level that's in here is at fairly close to nominal range. There's some fluttering with it. And so what Rakam had said while you were inside the ship, that, hey, the seal's maybe not the greatest, just be aware, is probably pretty true.
So when Cordelia starts talking about forcing this open with her enormously strong arms, they're not enormous, they're just really strong. She's buff. Stop, put up my hand and say, whoa, let's take a beat and use our brains and not our muscle yet, because Rakam said it was kind of touchy. And then if our brains don't figure it out, you can surely kick down the door, Cordelia.
I was okay. Kicking seems a little, I feel I wouldn't kick it because I would want to slide it like a normal door. But that being said, yes, okay, I will try to do that once we resolve our other options. So are we going to stand here outside the door or get a battery to try and power it up? What's the goal?
I'd like to maybe see if I could roll to see if I could figure out how to open the door. I have my special ability for there's your problem.
Yeah, sure. So we'll start this in the traditional Cypher fashion by describing to you that the target number to open the door is, the challenge rating is 4. So it's a challenge rating 4 task to open this door because you are unfamiliar with the technology and the way that it's programmed to open. Also, the door does not have power, which will create some issues. Yeah, we'll start there.
So since I'm trained in tasks related to figuring out how to solve problems with multiple solutions, which includes kicking down the door or finding a power cell or whatnot, can I lower that difficulty by 1?
I'm not going to argue with you about this, but I will just let me state for the record that there is no feasible way the team has the power to literally kick the door down. I know, but I'm just being clear with you. If you're stating that, hey, this is one of the ways we can solve this problem, not likely, because the door is way heavier than that.
So, or forcing the door open or whatnot.
Sure. Certainly, I'll allow you to use that ability.
Okay. And then can I use my effort against my intellect to lower the difficulty even more?
So yeah, if you want to apply effort to it, great.
Yeah.
Then spend points and lower the difficulty.
So it'll be 3. I have no edge.
Can I assist, Mike?
Let's see here. Can you assist?
Like if I see the captain being like, no, you guys, slow down. We're going to examine this bit further. Can I just be like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's have a look and see if this thing has conventional wiring under this panel. Let's see if we can figure out something.
I mean, if you're spending pool points and you're using essentially an ability to lower the difficulty by 1, the target number is 2, therefore 6 or higher on the die.
I also have helpful. That's the one. Whenever you help another character, that character gains the benefit as if you were trained, even if you are not trained or specialized in the attempted task. So now you are trained in your attempted task.
Fido is assisting me. So does that give me a difficulty of 0 at that point, Mike, if they're both?
So yeah, so the way difficulty 0 rolls work is you just do it. There's no roll for it. It just happens. So the crew is able to, through teamwork and through just a whole bunch of, good vibes and a little training, are able to overcome the challenge and get through the door. And so the airlock door goes from the bottom to the top. It raises. The way this works is essentially FIDA hijacks part of the outer terminal facing where the 2 buttons and the raised chevrons are and pushes power through the door controller and gets that to temporarily light up. And then, Captain Amara is pushing the button feverishly for the door to open. Cordelia she's taken her the magnetizing gloves of her suit and is literally trying to yank the door open. And eventually it gives. And it's sort of almost like a barn door. Like you finally get the wheel to spin and the door goes all the way up. And now I'm going to play a GM intrusion. And so when that happens, I'm going to give Cordelia 2 XP, one of which she must give to another of her crew.
I think that in this moment, she is finding a little more in common with Captain Castra. They both have this idea of, depending on whatever's going to happen now, she feels like that's where it's going to go. We're going to give that XP to Captain Castra.
Okay. So you get 1 and Captain Castra gets 1.
Oh, thank you, Cordelia.
So when this happens, Cordelia, and you finally get the doors to go all the way up, what happens is the airlock umbilical cord separates because there's too many people on the front of it. And so it breaks containment. And when it does, there is a serious break in the air pressure or the pressurized nature of this umbilical cord. And you get sucked inside because of the pressure change. And Captain Kazra and FIDA get pulled back. And everyone's going to have their own sort of challenge to either stay on their feet or grab something. And so for folks in the umbilical cord, it's going to be a challenge rating 3 task to grab onto something because it really wants to rip you into the farthest reaches of space if it can. And Cordelia, for you, it's also going to be a challenge rating 3 because you are going to be hurtling inside this space. And your challenge is to grab onto something or shield yourself before connecting with a nearby wall, which may or may not have something terribly sharp in it. Tons of fun.
That is a fun little variable. Who knows what you're going to find? Would you say reacting here is a speed check?
Well, I mean, it's challenge rating 3, so you could choose to pull points from your speed pool if you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to spend out of your speed to act quick and maybe make a leap for the relay station, I could see that.
The main reason I ask is because I have the special ability Practiced in Armor. So I can wear armor for long periods of time without tiring and can compensate for slowed reactions from wearing armor. you reduce the speed cost for wearing armor by 1. I'm wondering if is that a separate thing?
It's a separate thing.
Cool. Just wanted to confirm. In that case, I'm still going to spend speed, but I'm going to do it to have the quick. I'll spend 3 points of speed to get the reduced by 1 to have the quick thinking to activate like mag boots.
Okay.
Which as I'm doing it, I'm kind of like, I should have had these ready to go beforehand. This is in future. Maybe I should do this.
Okay. So you're going to activate them, and the effect of the roll would then be that Fida sort of steps on the doorway and keeps himself from getting pulled off.
The way I think of it, Mike, is he's getting pulled back. He thinks to activate the boots, and by the time he gets that done, because he's been pulled back so quickly, it's a speed check because he's just his right foot is just about over the platform still, so that he can. So yeah, I'll spend the 3 points of speed and I'll reduce that down.
Awesome. Go for it.
All right, a 15. Didn't even need to spend the points of speed, but it's cool to do it.
It is cool to do it. So yeah, Fida, you lurch forward and you slam a boot down, the first one, on the archway where the airlock is, and you can hear the magnetic portions of the boot sort of grip onto the relay station door. And barring any unforeseen circumstances, that leg's not going anywhere. Captain Kasra, I wonder how you're going to deal with this situation.
Yeah, you said it was a 3. So I am trained in bold, which means in all actions that involve overcoming or ignoring the effects of fear or intimidation, because this could be something a little fearful if I have to jump across to the airlock or to the other door.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there's fear here. You could potentially be whipped out into space. Open space.
That would be bad. So that takes it down to 2, so I'll leave it at that, and then I'll roll.
What you got there, Captain?
I got a 3.
No, I love this. Okay. So you reach out and you boldly leap for that portion of the airlock, and you come up with nothing but open space to grab onto. And worse yet, because it's there for me, you sort of bump up against Fida when you're leaping forward and he's sort of planted himself. And so you ricochet off of that sort of enormous frame, and you are now going in the complete opposite direction of the airlock and not in the direction of the periphery either. So we'll get back to you in a second. Cordelia, how are you dealing with your own, physics problems?
As she feels herself getting pulled in through this, what sorts of things is she seeing around her in this, corridor, this airlock as she's going in through it?
I mean, the space is spinning pretty quickly for you, but I will say that you do see a couple of lights overhead. So you see one that seems to be green. It adds a nice sort of dim, faint green light in front of you. Behind you, because you would have some ability to see the shine off of the light coming from the back, you see an amber light, probably was just above the door. At the bottom, where you would be putting your feet if they were actually on the ground, there's a grate, probably about 1.5 meters wide by 2 meters long. And then as you are flipping end over end, unfortunately, you can tell that there are nodules on the ceiling, probably 4 or 5 of them. They look technological in nature. It's the best way to say it. And then right under that green light that's in front of you, there is another door. The room that you're in space-wise is probably like 15 by 10. It's an airlock.
Gotcha. As she's spinning end over end, she is going to activate something within her power armor. I imagine small little rocket, little boosters. Like if you were to do spacewalking, it would just kind of help navigate, fine-tuning that. And she's going to try to do something, putting her arms in opposite directions to try to slow her cascading backwards to get to figure out a way to get into a standing position, or to get her feet facing something, whether it's a wall whether it's that, she's trying to just stop the spinning at first.
Love it. So you can use the suit to drop the difficulty from 3 to 2. And so that's a 6 or better on your roll. That'll be required.
That's an 18.
Very good. So not only do you get it under control, but we'll say, given the die roll, we'll say that you are able to land. And when you land, the power armor suit and the power armor itself senses or knows gyroscopically that there's a lack of gravity here. And so your boots automatically magnetize to the deck. That will give you a little bit of grip. That, unfortunately, is not the end of this tale, as the captain is beginning to float out into open space as we go. So for you, Fida, because you have the best vantage at this, the captain is not moving at speed by any means, but you know for a fact that these light suits that you wear, they have no assisted, rocketry or air tanks to sort of adjust your movement without making some real serious problems. The captain's in trouble.
Yeah, she is. Mike, last season I had a hyper rope, which was basically an unbreakable rope. Basically, I'm just like, do I have some kind of cable line now?
Yeah, you have some cable line for sure. You'd have it within the many pouches and packs you likely are carrying. I'm fine to give it to you as an asset. I will just say, in this, it's not unbreakable.
I was kind of like, here I feel like that's going to become my hammer. But you know what? That's good. That means it won't cut the captain apart as she tries to hold on to it. I tie an end of it onto a rail, like a handle in here in the airlock, and I try to basically fastball the rest of the line to the captain.
Okay.
I'm like, I can jump to her and bring it. I'm like, that is going to get both of us killed, probably.
Probably.
Worst case comes to worst, Tamarisk and Raham can do an emergency rescue, but I'd really rather not have that happen right now. So yeah, best bet is I can fastball this line to her. Just think back to all that time in space playing Spaceball, and just an over the shoulder throw, just as fast and hard as I can. Would that be a check or a?
Oh yeah, 100%. So there's certainly a challenge involved in that, and so I would just say that the way I feel about it is, I feel that if the regular challenge rating of this task was 3 to get in, we have to go up to 4 because.
But yeah, she's a moving target.
Target now.
Yeah.
And so we'll say it'll start at challenge rating 4, and you can't count the rope as part of an asset because it is required for what you're trying to do.
It's a fundamental part of this whole procedure. It's not a bonus help. All right. In that case, I am going to spend down some might to so I have an edge of 1 in might, so I'll just spend 2 points to get the reduction. So that brings it back down to 3. I'm happy to reduce it back down to 3 and chance my arm. Possibly literally.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. Okay. I think 3 is good for me.
No, so 3 would be 9, wouldn't it?
It would be.
Well, Mike, I rolled a 9.
Ooh, okay. So you heave as best you can, and you take a little bit of Cordelia's good physics sense, which is to throw from the hip, because you're going to be able to throw further. For you, Captain Kazra, there is no roll for you to catch, simply because Fida has passed his roll, but you did begin to sort of tumble end over end, and when you get something, this wire sort of comes over the top of your head, and it's the only thing out there to grab onto, and so you grab onto it, and that is when physics comes into play, and the rope tightens taut, and you sort of whipsaw around.
Bet that feels good.
It's probably not the best feeling you've ever had.
All right. We have comms on, so Fida, can you pull me in slowly? Please.
Can do, Captain. And I'm just going to start, just winding the rope around like from my hand to my elbow on my left arm, just kind of one not a jerky pace, a nice steady, constant winding, and just reeling her back in like a fish.
Yeah, it doesn't take terribly long, and after Cordelia gets you have to get your footing under you. Helping out makes things a little faster. You are able to get into the airlock space, although obviously because the door is still wide open, there's no pressurization. So those of you without magnetic boots, in any case, are going to be floating around a little bit, but not too terribly so to worry. You rescue Captain Kazra from the depths of space and pull her back in.
Much obliged.
No problem. I think we should probably work on a standard procedure to actually use the magnets, activate them before we open doors in future or something. That would might save us some trouble.
Good idea.
It's been a long time. I totally forgot.
I might have been a little too enthusiastic about exploring a space station with possibly new alien life that we've never seen before.
I mean, I can't blame you. If you see a door and you're trying to go there, you try to open it. So I'm with you, Captain.
Does anybody shut the door?
Yes.
You shut the door, and when you do so, the amber light that was on overhead of the door, after a few seconds, goes green, and all of you can sense the pressure beginning to change in the room just a little bit. Cordelia, you have a little bit more in-depth sense of this because the suit gives you a readout of what the ambient pressure is. Your suit does not like the air quality that it sort of gets a hold of, and it gives you a very simple status message on your HUD, which is, it is not advised to take your helmet off.
Let's stay suited up, everybody. The air quality here is questionable at best.
And then you all get sprayed.
What?
The nodules overhead that exist in this space begin spraying out this fluid on all of you. It's clear, but it's like a surprise shower that sort of just begins to coat everybody. And your suits react to this chemical, which is being put on them. You assume it's a chemical. Your suit, especially Cordelia, is rushing to try to figure out what the chemical compound is because it's worried it's some sort of acid or something caustic. It does not appear to be caustic after a few seconds, but that doesn't at all absolve you all of the horrific reactions. So I'd love to know what your impulses are.
Are these coming from the nodules that were overhead?
Yep.
Cordelia's going to try and step back towards the walls, away from being beneath the nodule.
Yeah, you step back. You watch when you step back, two of the nodules turn automatically to continue to spray you. There doesn't seem to be a space here that those spray jets can't hit. And then after about 15 seconds or so, they stop. And you watch the fluid, which is a little bit built up on the floor, it begins to slowly creep towards the vent on the bottom of the floor, like a drain.
Yeah, I think Fida's reaction is panic, but like the panic of stay freeze, just don't move. What's happening? Try to figure out what's happening without making things worse by panicking, which might help or hurt him in the long run, until, depending on what this stuff does to him.
Well, it might be a spray to...
It could just be a decontamination spray.
Right. So they're not bringing anything unknown into the environment that might harm what they're working on or who they are.
I was just going to say, has my suit updated me on anything in that brief amount of time when it's analyzing what's going on?
It doesn't know what to make of the chemical that's being put on you, but it does show a decrease in the suit's overall radiation level that it's picked up. There's a small drop in that.
There's a drop in radiation.
Yep.
She lets the crew know that. She's like, it seems like you're right. I'm noticing a distinct drop in the radiation levels, probably just from the particles from space. Perhaps even from our own ships.
Yeah, there'd be some background, right? And our ship is, the drive is nuclear.
Oh, for sure.
What's our oxygen? How much oxygen do we have in our suits?
You probably have enough oxygen for about a 3-hour EVA. So your clock is ticking at this point.
And do we have a radiation counter on our suit as well?
Not yours, nope.
No. Okay. But Cordelia does and can alert us if it goes. All right. Well, should we try to find engineering or what is the bridge so we can let Fido get to work and Cordelia and I can scout the station?
Absolutely. And you see Cordelia goes and gathers one of her weapons so that she can take point as they start to pass through or starting to make their way towards the door that was there.
Yeah, there's a door. It looks very similar to the one you went through. This one, though, the chevrons have light and like the buttons do as well. Single button rather than the two.
She looks back to Fida and with her, giant gloved hand kind of points out one finger and hovers it over top of the button. Just getting confirmation.
You just see the big form in the suit shrug, like, what else are you going to do?
She shrugs back and presses the button to open the door.
You watch the door with a sort of crisp snap. It begins to raise up. The room inside is about 2 to 3 times as large. You see to your left, you see a series of stairs that go to a platform, all viewable, not blocked. There seems to be some sort of control panel up there, a wide control panel. So maybe 10 or so feet long, not super, super thick, but there is a control panel there. To your right, though, is probably the most interesting thing. You see suits, bipedal suits. So these look fairly heavy duty. They don't look like they are made and machined for, I would say, combat use in your estimation, Cordelia, because they look like they're very, very heavy duty. But there are large, bulbous helmets that are almost a little too large for the body, just slightly larger. And the feet or the boots that are in these suits are very wide. And this sort of triggers a few things for you, Fida. Like, you remember seeing the ancient builder that you talked to. He was much taller than you are, had a much more wide, strangely shaped head. You don't think they would have fit in this suit. There's also a yellow line on the ground. It goes to the center of the room and then hooks right. And there is further space. If you were to go forward, you can see that there is a doorway without a door and some deck plates and what looks like deeper into the station, which is sort of lit with this on and yet faint red light.
I reckon whatever it's working on is emergency power.
Cordelia will walk in and kind of following along that yellow line very slowly and is like examining, for movement, for anything that looks like a scuffle could have taken place in here. She's looking for any red flags through the room and just kind of trying to at least comb through a path to see if there are any dangers before the others follow behind.
Yeah, so if you follow the line, you'll see that it extends. If you sort of go to the center and go right, you'll have to walk through a couple of these. Basically, it looks like 4 of these suits are here. There's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And when you can get about maybe 2 or 3 more meters forward into that space, again, another doorway. And then you see just an absolute stack of rubbish, like stripped metal, other building materials, possibly some refuse. And it has been stacked in irregular patterns. It doesn't obstruct you from fully going into the space, but you would have to sort of mountaineer to get over it. And the space that it's in is very large and very open and also very dark.
Does the pile have more of a look of, or could I use any sort of my background knowledge to determine whether or not this pile seems to be put here as a barricade or as like a trash pile of what we're taking with us, what we're not, if these were scrappers?
It does feel like there's some sort of scrappers pile here. It does seem like somebody picked a spot in this space to sort of just dump all their junk. But you're also seeing like mineral here as well. So there's like leftover metals. Almost like at one point, maybe they were mining something nearby. Like, to be clear to the rest of the crew that's sort of looking around, this place does not look like it was well cared for. At least that's at first blush the way it looks like. To somebody who's been in and out of these spaces a ton of different times, Vida, this looks like somebody's, well, it looks like somebody's lab. Like, so this looks like a workplace. So no, like nothing's been scoured here. Nothing's been cleaned. There's remnants of like probably engine oil grease here or lubricants there just because, well, they get on everything and we're all in these dirty freaking suits anyway, so who cares? You get that feeling from this place.
Yeah, suited up and everything. I'm just like, so there's the 4 suits there. There's no empty docking stations for them.
Nope, no empty docking stations.
Yeah, so I'm just like, all right. So, look, this is clearly some kind of industrial area. I'm just saying there might be a lot of hazards here that we aren't immediately obvious to us. So just, folks, keep your eyes open where you're going. Careful not to slip in grease or spray or icons know what even. Yeah, it's just one of those like, okay, let's be very careful. I don't want anybody getting strange cuts and repairing themselves. Mike, as I join Cordelia in looking through the stuff, it's just reinforcing that opinion, right? Like, okay, this is a work area. This is kind of like a pile of junk.
Yeah.
Or things were just dropped, like, in mid-process or something, but...
I think it's less than things were dropped mid-process. Like, this seems like a pile that someone would make either one or two reasons. Either they're cleaning up another space and they just needed a place for junk, or people stopped caring and they just started throwing stuff in this pile. And when I mean pile, like, it's a good 1.5 meters tall, like, in boss, like, it's big.
1.5 meters, that's like neck high on Vida, more or less, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either this is part of the station that wasn't used much, or, and he relays, he's like, part of the station that wasn't used much, so maybe crap just built up here, or someone was cleaning another area and decided to move all the stuff from there. Either way, look, it's an immediate problem for us, so let's have a look at what we can do. If we only take half of it, we can leave one half against the wall and just clear half the corridor for ourselves. I can't see how far in it goes, but I don't think it's going to be the whole way.
All right, fair enough. Let's move just enough of it to get through. I just don't like the idea of something jumping out of a pile of junk at me.
Yeah, not a fan. Thinks back to the sentient electricity. Definitely not a fan.
Okay. So you're going to work your way through the pile then?
Kind of like shoving a little bit of it over and doing a bit of shimmy work. She wants to be able to have enough to like work around with it.
Sure. Yeah, not impossible by any means for somebody in power armor for sure. So you can weave your way past what laughably looks like a trash can. At one point it was here. And you actually don't think there's much in that trash can. The refuse bin is mostly empty. So you can work your way through there. 2 things happen that are sort of critical for Cordelia. 1, you're able to get around a section of this junk pile and cut a path, which will help others. 2, you do see that deeper into this space, there are lights in this space. They're green. They're very faint. And unfortunately, they're faint enough where, yes, you can see that there are lights, but they don't add enough illumination to this wide of a space to actually give you something to see.
Could I, with my power armor and I have my helmet on, could I have cool little headlights on it?
Yeah, sure. You turn the lights on your helmet on and it gives you extra illumination, and you really wish it wouldn't have. So I'm going to intrude here and I'm going to interject into this scene a series of what appear to be bipedal animals that are hopping through this space. They hop from left to right across the bay. They're mostly, their skin is dark. And the silhouette that you get is something that has a thick, low to the ground, bulbous body with sort of these rabbit-like haunches on either side, and it hops through the bay. But at the front end of it, it coils up and has two tiny little arms and then a very elongated snout. And when they look at you, their eyes sort of flare this electro red, and they hop faster to run.
Running away from us.
Oh, yeah.
Cordelia has a moment where she's there. She watches their movements very closely with her weapon up, but not drawn and pointing, but at the ready until she sees them running. And she just goes, oh, make sure you tell Tamarisk about that. And
unfortunately, the intrusion's not over.
What do you mean?
Well, because I have to give you XP, so I have to give you one, and then you have to give it to someone else, so they can have an XP too. Because when these creatures move through this space, something larger comes from behind in one of these far piles, and you hear a low, sort of guttural thumping, and then a growl passes through this room, and it looks like something long and muscular is sliding across the ground towards the group. So you can, if you'd like, elect who else is going to get that XP. Cordelia?
Feel like I should be fair and give it to Vida, but also...
But Amara has a gun.
But Amara has a gun.
It's okay.
Amara has a gun is perfectly fair and valid. Also, she spent 1 XP already in the campaign, so...
Yes, I'm kind of trying to hoard mine, but I don't know how long that will last. Yeah, so I will give my other XP to Amara Kasra.
Fabulous. This creature that is, we'll just say, sliding back and forth on the ground, it rears up, it gains elevation with the front of its body, and you can see a bifurcated set of eyes twitch, and its maw opens, and there's this growl that echoes out into this empty, mostly empty cargo space. And that is where we're going to call our episode to a close. And so next time when we pick up at the relay station, we're going to see how our crew deals with a visitor. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.